Welcome everybody, this is Commander Ramsey with another video on the Japanese battleship line, which I started in the month of May. A little late at recording these due to some health issues, but nonetheless. And this battle is the battleship KII. As compared to the Amagi, the KII is very closely related. However, her main battery guns are about 1 kilometer longer in her range. Her secondaries, the 140 millimeters, there are less of those in exchange for some much more beneficial AA guns. So the KII's AA platform is much stronger than the Amagi's. She has the 40 millimeter barrels, and she has 32 of them to go along with the other smaller and larger anti-aircraft guns, but the 40 millimeters are probably the most helpful. Her armor scheme is weaker than the Amagi's, but the KII is meant to be played at mid to long range. She is not a tanking battleship, she is more of a battle cruiser. She has 10 of the 410 millimeter or 16-inch guns, HE as well as AP shells. They're the same as those on the Amagi. Let's see here, she also has torpedoes out to 10 kilometers, 3 on each side, which you really don't get to use those too much unless you get a surprise situation or in a desperate situation. I have equipped her with the spotter plane instead of the fighter, given her strong anti-aircraft suite. I want to be able to fire better at longer range, get beyond the 19 kilometers. Here in this battle, I'm also utilizing the Indigo Blue, or Blue Lagoon I think it's called, camo, because I think it does have some benefit to mid and long range at confusing the enemy on what parts of the ship they may be trying to hit. Probably more beneficial at mid range. Trying to match the backdrop color of the ocean. Anyway, here our flank is going off to the left, but we don't have any cap zones over here. This is one of those standard battles where the flags, or domination I guess, I forget what it's called. My fault there, guys. She does have the airstrike depth charge feature as most battleships. Right away I'm getting attacked by enemy carrier, the Tier 8 Shokaku from the Japanese Navy. Using my customary HE shells at distance, trying to get a fire started. Scharnhorst is in my sights here. To get a fire started there, good. I would also recommend, of course, in a battleship, trying to stay back behind your supporting ship so they can help spot for submarines and destroyers, and cruiser-launched torpedoes as well. So I started to fire here on the Otago. Once you get a fire started on an enemy ship and they're letting it burn, try to avoid shooting them unless they're the only ship in your gun sights. In this case, I've got the Otago, which is a large Tier 8 cruiser. I'm trying to get a fire start on him. I probably could have switched to AP there, but I figured I may have to use the HE shells again on the Scharnhorst if he keeps the bow in. Can't remember if I can overmatch that Scharnhorst hull, but at distance, maybe not. Scharnhorst is continuing to burn, so I'm going after the Otago. The dispersion on the main battery guns of the KII is actually a little bit worse than the Amagi, so I did get a fire started there, okay. But he put it out immediately using his repair party there. And they get a fire starter on me. So we're exchanging fires. I'm trying to stay behind my supporting cast, which seems to be retreating. We're almost all the way back to our CV, which is not good. Got some AP shells on the Scharnhorst, and I do get her for first blood, and the fireworks are started on the crew, and I sound the horn of victory there against that particular ship. That added an extra heal. If you look down at the bottom, T as in Tom. It was 4, now it's 5, and that's because I'm using the unique commander Isoruku Yamamoto. And in that particular situation, when you get first blood, that adds some extra benefits to your suite down below, which is always helpful in a long battle. Which this one will go the distance. Still firing AP shells here because I've got a cruiser in my sights. And I get him! Double Citadel. Get a devastating strike there, which that turned out quite well. He didn't zigzag like most of the cruiser players. So I see the Schroeder, and I think, well, why not? He's a cruiser, but he's a little farther distance here. He's tier 9. The upper tier players on cruisers have learned to zigzag quite effectively in most cases. But then again, here comes a Shiratsuyu, Japanese destroyer. He is definitely zigzagging. But I managed to get a little bit of damage on him. That's not too bad at 12 kilometers. And there's another Atago. Atagos are popular. They're a good overall ship and a good suite of tools to use. They're a large cruiser. A lot of guns, a good long range, multiple torpedo sets, out to 10 kilometers actually. It's a good cruiser, but it does have one good weakness. Its citadel is easy to hit. So you go kaboom quite quickly if you are in too close and show your broadside. He's getting pounded right now. So I'm trying to help out the team. Getting hit myself. I'm pretty much on the front lines because our team is being so hesitant playing back. We really should be moving forward a little better. But our destroyers are playing back, and that's never a good sign, my friends. If you are in a destroyer, you need to be out front leading the charge for your team because you are equipped with some skills that the rest of your team typically is not. And they took out the enemy Atago there. That being your low detectability. You can also equip your destroyer with radio location, which tells you the nearest ship closest to you, which is a form of primitive radar back in the day. I've learned to use that quite effectively on destroyers and some of my cruisers, and it's very helpful to your team, as well as to yourself. You can train your guns in that direction, but our destroyers can't seem to quite make up their mind what they want to do. We've got the Tashkent's finally moving out forward, but the Fletcher is hanging back. But I'll let them worry about that. I've got at least one destroyer out front and a cruiser, so I'm moving in with them. When you're a battleship and your destroyer and cruisers are moving in front of you, support them. But you've got to be careful, because once they decide to duck and cover and retreat, you being in a battleship, it's much harder for you to turn and get back, and when you do, 9 times out of 10 you're exposing your broadside, which is a great target for the enemy team, and you can head back to port quite quickly. A lot of times you get abandoned. Most of the battleship players listen, know what I'm talking about, and you end up putting the bow toward the enemy and going in full reverse forever. Sometimes you survive, sometimes you get bogged down. Anyway, back to the game. I digress. We're making some progress here. The game is still somewhat matched. They're taking the lead, and they've got, looks like a one-ship advantage. Trying to move forward here. The enemy is starting to move into our cap zone, which is not good. The Tashkent has taken off to try to defend the cap. I still have the Fletcher and the Buffalo out front, so I'm still going to continue advancing. Training my guns to see if I can help out, but that's he's way out of my range, even with the spotter plane. And trying to hit a destroyer at that range, well, it's pretty much wishful thinking. Anyway, still getting attacked by the enemy CV. I've got about 14 planes now that I've shot down, which is not bad. Remember, the anti-aircraft suite of the KII is quite strong. And if you're a CV player, you may want to try to avoid the KII if you've got other softer targets. Or if you're a Tier 10 CV, then by all means. Here we've got a Isoruku destroyer close by, so we're trying to aim our guns at him, take care of him. The hybrid battleship Nebraska is now coming in and out of range. Over there around F4. I couldn't quite tell how quick he was moving, so my shells were a little behind on that shot. So anyway, we'll have another shot here at the Nebraska, but I'm still concerned that the Japanese destroyer here, Shiratsuyu, is sitting in his fog, and there he is. He's launching his torpedoes. Fortunately, the Fletcher was there to help spot those torpedoes for me, so I could start preparing to take evasive action. Fortunately, he put those torpedoes in such a broad spread, I was able to go between them. And I did get a few hits there, almost 9,000 on the Nebraska. Fletcher's still close by, trying to help out, see if we can destroy this enemy destroyer, wherever he is in that smoke. I'm still being spotted. I've got an enemy cruiser off to the southwest. Not sure where the enemy CV is. I think he's probably been moved off there to the center, lower the map, or the southwest corner. Hopefully the Fletcher will move in here and help me spot this guy, because I'm in real trouble. You don't have hydro with the KII, which really would have been helpful. Now I'm getting peppered by the Nebraska at distance. HE shells. There he is. Okay, there's the destroyer backing up. Notice how quick he can change gears and almost outrun my AP shells. Did get a little hit on him there, a little damage. And thanks again to the Fletcher, I'm able to thread the needle here on the torpedoes. Couldn't quite tell which direction the Shiratsuyu was going. Thought he was going straight away, but he did turn at the last minute and avoid my shells. And he runs himself into the island, and my shells go out in front of him. So I thought he was sneaking in behind part of the landmass, but he wasn't. Anyway, but the good thing is he was taken out, but unfortunately my Fletcher went down. Now I've got 3 ships against me. I've got the CV, the Nebraska, as well as see the Schroeder Tier 9 cruiser, which is formidable. His secondary guns are going out well over 9 kilometers, so he's starting to pepper me with secondary fire. In the meantime, the CV is having a part attacking me, but I'm taking down a lot of his planes. I'm trying to get some good shots on the Schroeder. He's really peppering me. I got some pretty good hits there, knocked out one of his guns. But he has the advantage here because he's got 2 more players on his team that are peppering me, and he's within secondary distance. So he's got a fire started on me. My propeller is out of service, affected there, and I'm not in a good situation here, guys. Going to go down, and we've melted away, unfortunately. Get a last volley in there on the Schroeder before I explode. Did get Confederate, capping out 3 awards there in the battle. For a Tier 8 battleship in a Tier 9 game, that's not too bad. But you always hate it when your team melts away there. It was pretty good battle there for about 60% of the way, 70% of the way through it, and then we just started melting away. And oftentimes that's because players, you know, have some unwise decisions in some cases. Other cases, the enemy team gets off some good volleys, and that can make the difference in the game. The enemy is capturing our flag. No doubt they will interrogate our citizens, and it will be a terrible time for our country. Anyway, I'm having fun with it. I've got the commander and ship builds here included at the end of the game, which is just wrapping up. Our poor enemy CV is the last there to be alive, but nonetheless, that's one of the fun attributes of being a CV player. Oftentimes you're the last one alive if your enemy team, if your team melts away and the enemy progresses. Let's see. All right, getting back to the key, I do use a camo on it. I think it's indigo blue or blue lagoon, whatever it's called. It's got 3 blue colors in it, trying to somewhat camouflage the ship, matching into the ocean's background. And I think it has an effect at mid-range on players maybe trying to hit your turrets versus your broadside or your low side of your hull. But anyway, that's my theory. All right, here's the results of the battle. We go down into defeat. I do manage to get 3 awards: Confederate, Devastating Strike, and First Blood, which helped out with the unique commander Yamamoto and getting me some additional heals to help survive the battle longer. Shut down 21 enemy aircraft, which was the highest on the team. Came in first on the team in a losing effort with 1229 XP. Obviously that would have been higher had we been the winner. Our friendly U-190 submarine came in second with a good score there, and so on and so forth down the line. None of our ships survived the battle except for our CV player. He did fairly well there. When you come in midway on the team or higher, you've done a pretty good job as a CV player. The Jutland really did well on their side, so I gave him a compliment. Details of the battle here. There's the Shores. Devastating strike on him. Only 3 AP shells, almost 23,000 in damage. The Scharnhorst, 1 fire at about 9,000 damage. The rest was a mix of AP and HE shells. The Nebraska, 10 AP shells for 17,000. The Schroeder, 1 HE shell and 8 APs. The Otago there, a little bit of a mix, but the 2 fires at about 4,000 in damage. Again, there's 20 planes that shot down on the Shakaku and 1 from the Nebraska, totaling 21 planes. That's that strong AA suite on board the KII. Commander XP 20,000, almost 21,000, almost 700,000 in credits. And again, that's due to that special camo that came with the KII when I purchased it back many years ago. Almost 93,000 in HP damage, not too bad in a losing effort. If I could have stayed alive a little longer, I would have no doubt broke the 100,000 mark. We'll take a look at the unique commander Yamamoto, and you can see how I have him built up. What helps most on the KII is with the Amagi, getting the turret traverse, getting the turrets around quicker, but also the preventative maintenance at negative 45% on the impact to your ship. Here's the AA defense, which helps out a lot as well with the strong anti-aircraft gun suite. There's your grease the gears at plus 25%, which normal I think is 10. So, and the rest of these are pretty much standard on the battleship build. I'm still not married to the fire prevention expert. I'm still not sure that that does a lot of good. Second wind is a good benefit, but I did activate the emergency reserve. That's what I activated during the battle, being getting first blood achievement. So +1 on ship consumables, +1 on the other there. These are other cosmetic things that come with Yamamoto, as I may have mentioned in my other videos. Now we'll take a look at the ship build itself. It's a little different than the Amagi. I have it set up a little bit different. First of all, the skills here, though, pretty much standard build. But I do use, because of its soft side, I do use the skill there to the top left-hand corner. I forgot its name, but it's to prevent detonation of your shell inventory there on your ship. The rest of these are pretty much standard for a battleship build that I use. When you look at the above there, the consumables, I do equip the spotter plane because the KII does better at mid and long range, and I use the spotter plane modification 1, which gives additional time for the spotter plane to be up in the air, which helps you out in battle. The rest of the ship build's pretty standard for what I use. I do use the concealment system mod 1 here because the detectability of the standard KII is one of the worst in the game. I think it's the worst at tier 8 and one of the worst in the game. It's out almost at around 17 kilometers. It's just horrendous. So I do use that to knock it back, and that allows me to get in position better before I get detected. Otherwise, I'm getting detected early in the spawn, which I noticed, which was horrible, because I never could get to a location where I wanted before I started getting peppered with shells, and sometimes from the Yamato, which was very devastating.